Okay, we've got the drug versus touch routine here. This is kind of a long routine, and the first thing to say right off the bat is that, it's not a routine that you have to expect to remember word for word. And this guy, even our actor in this case, he didn't remember it word for word. I mean,
No,
he
but
riffed
you
on
know
it.
what? It's
You just
fine
get the
because
general idea.
that's the point of it is that he wasn't meant to memorize it word for word, and we certainly can't expect a guy to remember all the words, but it's to listen to it and understand the gist of it so that you know what the point of the routine is. And the point of the routine isn't to have a long conversation or a dialogue with a girl. The point is to bring in the notion of physical touching to give you an easy angle to initiating touch with her, to have this context. In fact, that's actually a good thing that we need to cover is that there's the idea of context, is that girls are okay with a lot of things, even things that maybe that normally they wouldn't think that they're okay with, as long as there's a context to it, as long as there's a reason behind what's about to happen, they're usually more okay
Yeah,
with it.
I like the saying by one of our friends who says that women are chameleons. They'll adapt to whatever you put out there. So if you talk to a girl, or if one guy comes up to a girl and has like the boring "what do you do" conversation, she'll just run with that. But if another guy comes up and brings up a highly sexually charged conversation, she'll adapt to that too.
Right. And it's also the idea that there's a like I was saying earlier, there's a reason for it. It's not that she's adapting to it more so than there's a purpose behind it. It's not just arbitrary, and that she's adapting to something arbitrary. Is that you've presented, okay, here's a scenario, and it makes sense, and I'm about to do X, Y, or Z, and she's going to think about it, and if she has to think about it logically, it's like, well, of course, that's going to happen next because it makes sense. Oh, well, or like, for example, if you're taking a girl home and you want to get her closer to your apartment, you're like, let's stop in and get some brownies somewhere. Seems a little ridiculous, but it's a step closer to your place, and it makes sense to her because there's a context. Rather than saying to her, oh, we're on our way to my place, and let's stop by somewhere in between, you give her another reason for it that makes sense, and she'll be okay with it.
Just pause here and talk about the touch. He's actually doing a pretty good job of this, and I think if it was me, I might lean in just a little bit more so that there's a little bit of non-congruence if you're too far away. So this is one of those things where the actor did a pretty good job, but if it was me, I'd kind of like lean in a little bit more.
Right.
What do you think, Jay,
Right.
on this one?
It does look a little bit awkward for him to reach his hand out like that. It's might.
But he was really smooth
Right.
right there, where he dropped his hand and just
Right.
put it right on her hand and got the hand hold
Right.
going.
And that is something to pay attention to also in this routine. It does take a touch that you initiate with and turn it into something more interesting.